Yesterday we um, sorry. So welcome everyone to another session. Yesterday we looked at we concluded the activate methodology. We looked at the remaining phases, which was who can remind me? I know we did deploy, we did run, and we did
realize.
Realize.
And run.
Yeah. So yesterday also we looked at the architecture. We looked at the landscape of SAP S/4HANA. Where we talked about basically looked at how SAP has evolved, looked at some of the changes from ECC to S4, looked at some of the advantages that ECC was bringing to the table, looked at the concept of ERP, and of course we were able to answer the question, is SAP an ERP? And from our discussions we confirmed that yes, it was an ERP. Looked at SAP S/4HANA at a glance, looked at some of the features, we looked at the advantages, and also went through with the differences, and looked at the landscape, looked at the various landscape. So I want to ask, yesterday we talked about the landscape or the environment. So who can remind me, what are the three landscapes that somebody who is being confused, a consultant would actually see or will experience? Remember I said yesterday, once you're joining a project, you need to ask the question, what server am I in, or what server am I supposed to be working in? So who can remind me of the three servers or the three landscapes?
Okay, we have three: development server, quality server, and production server.
All right. So can you briefly tell me what we do in those three different servers? What are the basic, just in your idea, not definition, just your idea, what do we do in servers? Yeah.
Okay, development server, this is actually where you do the main configuration, right? That's the brain box of your project, right?
Okay, so at what phase in your activate methodology do you use
the realization phase?
All right, that's good.
A realization phase. So this is where you do your where you carry out your configurations, right?
Then what's the documents we use or we reference to when we do our configurations in the dev?
Business blueprint.
Business blueprint. Thank you. Okay.
So then straight to quality server, right? So this is where you do testing, right?
So in the activate methodology, at what phase is that?
That is at
Realize. It starts and ends. It starts in realize but ends somewhere. What phase does it end?
Deploy.
Right.
Yes. So it ends at deploy stage. Yes. So then finally.
So what happens when what is the activity that happens when we are done with the configuration in dev? What do we do?
So you transport your request to quality server, right? Right?
Yeah, sure, correct.
So you do your transport your request, you move it to, that's all your configuration.
Okay.
So you move the request to quality server. So this is where you perform tests, right? To see the outcome or the output of your configuration in the deployment server or development server.
Okay. Do you remember the kind of test we can do in the QA?
Yes, you can do stress test. You can do UAT test. and you
Okay.
can do there are three tests. There's
Yeah.
stress test, there's UAT test, and oh shit.
What's the test to carry out between if you want to check if two modules are actually syncing?
Okay, integration test.
Yes, integration
Yeah.
test.
So you do integration.
Uh, yeah. What test is carried out by normal consultants? That's the functional.
The that's UAT test.
No, UAT is user acceptance.
Okay, user acceptance. Okay.
Yeah, there's a test we call functional test to check if your configuration in your module end to end, if it's actually functioning properly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so yeah, you need to go back to the different kinds of tests. We learned that in our last session when we were talking about deploy. So it's important that when you are asked these questions, you try to relate them. Like you see how we have related server to the activate methodology, and we're also talking about some activities we do in that system. So that's how you integrate everything you have learned like an experience. Right. So okay, thanks. I think you're in the QA. I think the last one.
After QA, you now move to production server. So
Yeah.
production server is the real life server, right? You don't do configuration in the production server. You don't do test in the production server. So
Yeah.
if during the UAT test, if there are issues that we have discovered or found out, you can go back to your QA test to make such corrections and transport it to production server. So production server is the live server where the real transactions happen, right? And this
Yeah.
is I think that's it, right?
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much for that insight. All right. So thanks, guys. This is what we looked at yesterday, and we looked at the three layers. Who can remind me? Not okay, Chukuna. We looked at the three layers. Let me run out from here. What are the three layers or the three architecture inside the system?
So maybe I can take that one. We
Yeah,
have
please.
presentation layer. That's
Okay.
in ECC is the GUI, that is graphical user interface, or
Okay.
in S4 HANA we have the user experience, which is the apps, Fury apps,
Okay.
and these are only for users. That is different functional users. Maybe you have
Yeah.
finance, CO, PPMM, and the SD.
True.
Then we have the application layer, which is for consultants, where they do the configuration. That is this pro
Okay.
customizing.
Okay.
That is where we have in S400 we call it, I think, business suite.
Yeah. S4.
Then
S4.
S4
Yeah.
business suite, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have the database layer,
Yeah.
where that's the ROM, this inbuilt ROM for S4 HANA, or for the other one for ECC. That's
Yeah.
the database
Yeah.
area where
It,
the system.
what's the database called?
HANA, I think HANA.
HANA. Yes,
Mm,
HANA. Yeah. So thank you. The database is HANA.
yeah,
The application layer is S4.
yeah.
The presentation layer is um, Fury or GUI. Yeah, so thanks for that. That is very apt. So this were the yesterday we logged into the system. We tried to go around to see. We talked about creating how to navigate through the different how to talked about transaction code. Talks about tabs that are within the SAP S/4HANA space. Right. So today we are going to begin the journey into configuration. So I'm just going to log in. And, so my client is 400, depending on the server you're using. All right. So today we are going to look at the organizational structure. And I think we're supposed to define some certain terms. Let me see if we can rush through that, because we need to understand those terms as we move forward. So these are just very brief terminologies that we're going to be seeing in the system, so that when we see them, we can always familiarize ourselves with them. The first is client. We have said that the clients in the structure of SAP, client is the highest hierarchy. Every other thing you do under the client. And of course, above the client is the server you're using, whether it's dev or QA or prod. But in terms of customizations, the client is the highest in the hierarchy of the SAP S4HANA system. Then we have the concept of company code. Now, basically, company code is where it's basically, it just represents an entity, right? It just represents the company where the financial information you're going to be getting financial information for that business. So it's a central organizational unit of external accounting within the SAP system. So what this is trying to say is that if you want to know how a company is doing, you have to search through the company code. So the company code represents that entity that is independent and where you can get your financial information from at the end of every session or every period. Okay, so what is a company? So we have talked about the company code, we have talked about company. So company is an original unit in account which represents a business organization for which individual financial statements can be drawn according to relevant financial laws. A company can have one or more company codes. So let's say at the top is a client, under the client is company, under the company is company code. So the company is the umbrella. So if you want to do, for example, if you have, for example, these multinationals, they have different company codes or different companies scattered all over the world, right? But if you want to do a consolidated financial statement, which means a financial statement that shows information of all the individual units as a group, what we call group reporting, you have to do that at company level. But if you want to report individual financials for these various entities, you do that at company code level. So the essence of company is to assist with group reporting for all the individual company codes. So that is the explanation, basically. Business area basically is used for external, more like a segment reporting. So business area is just like a part of the business where you want to be able to manage or monitor how that part is doing independently of the company code. So for example, in a bank, you can have retail, you can have real estate, you can have different business areas within a bank. Those individual units carry out their own, they generate their own income, they generate their own expense. It's the same thing, it has the same nomenclature as a segment. So in SAP, is either you're using business area or you're using segment. You don't use two of them at the same time because two of them actually have similar functions. A segment refers to a division of a company for which you can create financial statements for reporting. So like the business area, that's what the segment is. You can have a company that does, for example, when I was working with a bottled water manufacturing company, we had a segment that does sale of scrap. So because the waste that was coming out from the production was huge, they had to create a segment separate from the normal operations. So that is like a business of its own. It generates its own revenue. It has its own staff. They do their own expense and they report back to the company code. So it has similar nomenclature with the business area, right? The basic thing is that the business area does more of external reporting. The segment is more of internal because it's an integral part of the company code. So these are we most likely see as we approach. So I'm just trying to explain them so that we can go through the configuration. A profit center, it's also a very important concept, but this concept is not part of finance, it's part of controlling. Performance center is an original unit in accounting that reflects a management-oriented structure of the organization for the purpose of internal control. So the profit center basically is used to analyze the profitability or the profit areas within a company code. So let's say that in a company code, you have in a company like the bottled water I talked about, you have different profit centers. Profit centers from sale of bottled water, profit center from sale of scrap, profit center from different kinds of businesses within the organization. So what you do with profit center is to analyze how the individual profit centers are faring, and of course compare them with your expenses or do a trend. So it's basically the profitability analysis part of SAP. Although we have a module called COPA that handles profitability analysis, but you cannot do COPA in Essential from the Profit Center. Profit Center is the source. COPA gets its information from the profit centers. So it's just a way of analyzing the various profit centers within an organization. Right? So simply put, it's just different areas within your organization that generates profits. You just need to analyze those centers and see how they are faring from time to time. So we have seen that is a sub-module of controlling, and is tightly integrated with the new ledger accounting. It is used to determine for determination of profit and losses for internal areas using cost of sales approach or accounting approach. We're going to see those approaches as we move along. We have cost centers. Cost center is a component in which costs occur inside the organization. So why you need to understand this concept, because when you go for projects, when you're doing requirement gathering, these are the informations you're going to be asking, because you're going to be configuring them. So if you don't ask those questions, you're not going to get the information you need to do the configurations. So in an organization, you can have, outside tracking the activities of the business with GL, where you have your expense ledgers and the rest of them. Cost center is it's a way of also managing costs, tracking costs, analyzing costs. So it's just another level of reporting that is a little bit above the GL level. So let me give you for example. In a company you can have different accounts that tracks different activity. You can have accounts for repair and maintenance. You can have account for fuel, diesel, admin, production costs, travel and all that. That's at the GL level. Outside the GL level, you also want to track, you also want to be able to monitor this cost, because at GL you can't properly monitor this cost because GL feeds directly to the financial statement. So you want another component, another functionality that can help you get this cost and further analyze it. So the cost center is basically used for management purposes. So you can, at the end of the day, if you want to see the cost of the different costs, you can analyze them and use them to do your analysis and see how they see the trend between various cost centers. And of course, you can also budget. You can also do budgeting at that level. Functional areas classify operating expense of a company according to function. So it's just also another extended functionality in SAP where you can. This is tied to operating expense now. Cost center is basically on all areas, but this is specific to operational expense. So if you want to be able to group them in such a way that you can also report them, so you can group them according to function instead of just leaving them at the GL level. You can track them as cost centers and also track them as operating expense at the functional in terms of functions. So functional areas helps you to track profit based on the cost of sales accounting. So what it does is that, of course, if you have a typical financial statement, you're going to see the revenue, you're going to see cost of sales, you're going to see the operating expense. So functional area will try to track how profits is actually influencing, or how the operational cost is actually influencing your profits, right? So it's basically on functions like the sales, the admin, depending on how the financial statement is structured. Right, so these are core concepts that you are going to be seeing as we start the configuration. So it's wise that I explain them so that you can also read them up much more. We have talked about transaction codes yesterday. We have different transaction codes for different purposes. So I don't know if you have a question at this point. So yesterday, if you don't remember, I've also showed you how to navigate through. If you don't remember any of those transaction codes, we have posting keys, which we are going to be seeing. So I will leave all these ones as we come to the as we arrive at the configuration, and I'll always make reference to these documents. But just briefly, when you post transactions in SAP, you do the posting based. It runs through what we call the posting keys. And the posting for every major transaction, there is a posting key. For debit, for credit, depending on the document, SAP has behind that document a posting key. We're going to also show you how you can navigate that. We have document types. In SAP, we have different types of documents, and we have different document types. The document types have a code, a 2-digit code, which you can use to track them. You might not know all these things now, but as you use them, as you engage, in your workplace, you're going to see these document types. They are just codes. So we have customer invoice, we have customer payment, we have vendor payment, credit memo. One thing you should know is that the way it's coded, D means debit, and debit is always related to customers in finance. K means vendor, D means customer. So that's the naming structure. S is for GL. So you can see DG, DZ, DR, these are all customer related documents. KZ, KG, KN, these are all vendor related documents. And SA, you're going to see is for GL. Hi, Patience.
Yeah, so maybe I can say something to the code because they are written in this thing. This vendor payments, like for instance, this KZ is Kunden Salon.
Okay.
Kunden Salon, they are coded in German. This because I remember when I was doing SAP, I did it in German, so they were coded in German language. That's why. So this vendor payment is Kunden Salon, customer payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. Fine. Thanks for your contribution. Okay, so the idea is that every document has a document type, and sometimes when you're processing documents, it will ask you for the document type. So, but the thing is in SAP is that you cannot cram anything because SAP is very, very, you can't even cram transaction codes. It's the one you use most frequently that sticks in your head. Others, you have to look for a way to save them or look for a way to note them down. When you need them, you can always call them up. Right. So as you use, and as I show you how you can find these things, you keep getting familiar with these document types. Right. So there are a lot of them, right? These are just examples. So let's look at the concept of master data, which in SAP S4HANA, you're going to be seeing some we call business partners. So of course, we have three types of master data. Um, Master data is the core data that is used as a base for every transaction. We have the master data, transactional data, and application data. Right. In SAP, we have these three types of data: master data, transactional data, and the application data. When you hear the word master data, it's just like it says, it is used as a base for every transaction. An example of a master data could be the customer name, the customer address, the phone numbers, the payment terms. Basically, these informations, this data rarely changes. That's one thing about one characteristics of the master data. When you impute the master data, it stays in the system, is supposed to stay in the system for a very long time, right? Transactional data change from time to time, depending on the nature of the transaction itself. Application data is the data that SAP needs for itself, which we can call the tables or the the ABAP, those technical data. That's what SAP uses to process the transactions. So this is just explaining some of these very key concepts before we go into configuration. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my screen. So like we said, this class is going to go in a project dimension. So I'm going to be using scenarios. So we're going to be starting first. There are two ways to run transactions or to do transactions in SAP. Like I said, you can use transaction codes. You can use what we call the menu paths. However, if you you are not you are not a grounded consultant if you only know transaction codes. Why? Because transaction codes are many. We have over 5 million transaction codes in SAP. It is going to be very crazy learning SAP with just and feeling you are a consultant with transaction codes because there are many. So the best way to learn SAP is to learn with the menu parts, and I'm going to tell you why. When you learn inside every menu part, you can find the transaction code. So you don't necessarily need the transactions except you want to you already know the menu part, you just want to use the transaction codes to run through the process, or you don't want to waste your time. But in terms of learning, as a learner or as somebody who is trying to understand what SAP is all about, you need to understand how SAP is structured, and you actually know that through your menu paths. While you can save your transaction codes, when you are familiar, you can just run them. But to just run with transaction code will be to deny you of having the foundational knowledge, having to appreciate what the design of SAP. Right? So for some of us went through the rigors of the learning through the many parts, we are enjoying it today because for me, I don't. I don't know whether I kept transaction codes anywhere, but if I want to find it, if I want to use it, I can always find my transaction code. But I appreciate SAP's design because when I'm at the back, I go through the menus, and it has helped me also, it has also exposed me to, the structure of SAP. So we can run T codes or we can go through the design. I'm going to be going through mostly the menu part. Once in a while, I'll probably run T codes for us to just probably um, get the feel of also what T codes also looks like. So I'm going to use the transaction code SPRO. It's very important. It will take you to the implementation guide. In the implementation guide, we have all the menu parts for you to do your configuration. For today, we are going to be focusing on what we call the enterprise structure. Okay, Chiku, did you come up with anything?
Okay, we can use ABC01.
Okay, so don't worry about that. Let me.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
going.
can we proceed?
Yeah, I will just. What I will expect you guys to do is just to be part of it, and
No
I
problem.
also ask you for your opinions. Yeah,
Yes.
any code is fine. So the first thing you have to do is before you do any configuration, you should have gotten the blueprint, like I said. So the blueprint will give you the directions on the configurations to do. Right. So you can start from here. So first of all, and also before the blueprint, you need to get the organizational structure or the organogram of the company. You need to understand the organogram. That you will get through your requirement gathering. You need to know how the company is structured. But for the purpose of this class and the time we have, we will just run through. So I have gotten the information from the client about the company code and some other informations we're going to be needing. So we're going to start configuration from the enterprise structure. If you go to the enterprise structure, you're going to see 4 different tabs, right? We have a localized sample, which we're not going to be using. We're going to be actually doing it ourselves. The first thing is you have to define the structure. In defining the structure, each functional consultant will be working on their own area. The SD guy will probably be working on SD. The finance guy will be working on finance. Some projects have CEO consultants on ground, so we're going to be working on theirs, material management, and all that. Everybody will be working on their own area. So we're going to be looking at finance and SD. SD very brief, just to also carry other people in the class along. So if I go to financial accounting, this is for the structure for accounting. These are the major key points that we have. Some of these functions will not be necessary. Some will be necessary as we move along. You're going to know that. So the first thing we have to do, like I said, we're now in the client. The next thing is to define the company, because it's after we have defined the company, we can now define the company code. So you can just execute this. And like I said, this is define company. If I want to check what the T code is, I can just right click on the activity and I'll go to display technical information. And you will see that at the 4 digits, the 4 digits of the document is the T code. Or you can go to attributes. So you can also see it here. Let me check this main object, sorry. Just want to confirm. Okay, so for this, there are different, this is SM30 would be to run the job. So the last 4 digits of the ID is always the T code for this particular object. That's why I said I don't need to cram these T codes. They are there within the IMG. For all these things here, their T codes are there. So you can always look them up if you think you need them to do what you want to do. So first of all, like we said, we're going to define the company. In your configuration, SAP would always advise, remember the 5 rules, use the standard as much as possible. In some configurations, we need to copy the standard settings. In some, we can create new. But remember what we're doing now, the first thing we're doing is to map the structure of the organization. From we have been able to enter the client, which is at the top of the hierarchy. Under the client, we have the company, then we have the company code, then we take it from there and move down. So here I'm supposed to provide information about the company name, and some other information. So I can either do this and use the copy sign, or I can just say new entries. So I'm going to go to new entries. So I would first of all come back to my blueprint. You can see where we discussed, sorry, my system is trying to catch up with my speed. Just a second. Okay, while that is coming, so we can here provide, this is not the company code, it's just a code that represents the company name, which can also be the company code. But what we're doing now is company. And so you said your company, what's the name of your company? Let's say we're using, I need a 4-digit that we can always remember, IBTC. Right? So that's the code. So this is IBTC manufacturing. Please note down this information for me. That's what you're going to be helping me with. You help me note the very key information codes that I'm going to be running, so that, because I'm not noting it down, so I won't remember. Let's say the street is in Lagos Road, no PO Box City, Aja, country US. We're going to be using US for this example because Nigeria doesn't have much config settings. Then the currency USD. So remember, these informations, you're getting them from the business blueprint. So you can see they gave us a company name here. So you need to be picking, see what they said is the company code. So anything I'm configuring, you see the structure, you see where company is, right? Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes, you can see, yes.
So you see company, on top of the company, you now have the company code. So if you turn this table upside down, you will see that you can assign more than one company code to a company. Why? For you to be able to do group reporting or consolidation at the end of the period. Consolidation or group reporting means that you bring, you want to see the general view. For example, if you have a company that sells petrol, and you have a company that sells manufacturing products, consolidation will give you a single view of the two companies when you merge them together. That's for those who do not have finance background, just trying to explain the concept of consolidation. Right, so that has been explained. So this is the company code. We have agreed company has also told you where it's located in India. So you see that all these informations, you don't assume them. You pick them from the business blueprint. So we have been able to pick the information, the keys, the country code, the currency for this company. Of course, SAP gave us more than, I think, is it more than 20 different currencies, but 10 core currencies. You can run transaction codes in different currencies. But we're going to see that as we move on. So we are going to click on save because I provided the basic information. Click on save. Now, guys, this is what you transport, because we were talking about the concept of transport. Now, this is your transport request. Remember, I'm in the dev system. I've started my configuration of the dev system. The first thing I've done is to define company. Define company has generated a request. However, this is for my other company called Tata Nigeria. I want to create a new request that will be speaking to IBTC. So I'm going to click on new request. Remember, when we want to transport from the dev system to QA, these things generate different requests for different configuration objects. I'm going to show you how we do that transport, probably after this. So I'm going to click on create my own. So I'm going to call it IBTC Nigeria Limited, right? Okay, then I would save this. You see the source client 400. This is me. This status is new. You see the date, time it was created. This is the user who is creating it. This target is where you want to transport this request to. So you can do it automatically as you're creating is moving. But sometimes it doesn't make sense. You have to do it manually. When you're done, you test before you move. But you can actually do automatic transport. So you click on save. So source is the dev client, dev system. Target is the QA system you want this transport to move to. Patience, is your hand still up?
It's all by mistake.
Okay. So I'm going to, so when I click on, you see the transport request number has changed. This is 0808, and this is the company that is having this. So I'm going to say okay or continue. So we have successfully always checked the menu bar for status of your transaction. So data was saved. Then you can always save. You can save more than once. It doesn't mean if you're not sure, please save again. Then go back. Now you see that we have if this company also has another name, a second name, why not? You can always do that, but it's not necessary. You can save again here just in case. Then you go back. So we have in the structure, we have, let me see if I can just okay, I think I'll just, in the structure we have worked on the company. You see, this is what is following. The first thing here in our blueprint is company, right? We have worked on the company. The next thing is company code. We're going to go back. The next activity we have here is credit control area. Now, what does credit control area do? It helps you, it's also directly linked with CRM, where you can manage credits from your customers and your basically customers and your vendors, right? It's also a very important functionality that helps you in analyzing credit terms and all that. So we're going to create a credit area. So for speed, remember you can always check the transaction code. For speed, I'm going to also teach you how to copy. I don't want to spend too much time, so I'm just going to click. I want to create my own with reference to this one. So just click at the side, it's going to highlight it, then click on copy. Then you can now change the code. So I will try and use the codes as much as possible so we don't have so many codes and start asking for what is the code. No, so for credit control area, I'm going to be using IBTC2. So please, what you're going to be doing for me, okay, is to be writing this different as I'm moving. Any code I create in that new stuff, you can write it down.
Okay.
So for credit control area, we're using IBTC. Then I can also change the description. Credit control
Our
area.
currency.
Currency, you have to change it to US dollar.
Oh, okay.
Because
Let
in
me
euro.
check. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so currency, I'm going to change to USD. And that's a good information because when you're doing configuration, except for various elements like cost center,
Hello, Kelechi. We cannot hear you. Okay.
without currency. Yeah,
You
sorry, I
can
have to.
finish it. Yeah, you're finished. Yeah.
Okay, so now you see I've saved my credit control area. It's asking for it's asking me, do I want to save this new credit control area inside IBTC? No, I'm going to create a new one. Why do we need to do this, right, guys? Why do you think we need to create them differently with different request numbers?
Okay, I think because the credit control area is somehow separated from finance. There's another team that is handling the CRM. Do you understand? I don't know.
No, not really. Now, the essence why you have to create every single customizing have to have its own request is for transport, for ease of transport.
Okay.
Remember, I told you guys yesterday that if
Okay.
I save it inside IBTC, if I'm transporting, it's going to transport everything because it's one code. If I save this credit control inside IBTC, credit control will carry the same code as IBTC,
Yeah.
which is the company. Yeah. So we need to separate them so that when we want to transport, we can transport them individually. If you save all of them inside one, then when you're transporting, you will transport everything because it's only one code that is using to track. So I need to explain this. As we go on, we might be duplicating the codes because we might not have time to always create new ones. But I need to let you explain this so that when I'm done with this, I will try to transport, then you can see how this actually works. So I'm going to click on create new. I will rename this to control area. Sorry, just a minute. Credit control area, always put your company code by the side, your company name. You can save this. So you see it has changed from 0808 to 0810, right? Yeah. So I'm going to say okay. You can always save to confirm. So I've done the second configuration. The next configuration will be that of company code. So I'm going to execute this. If you want to know the T code, I said you can just right click, go to display technical information. The T code to create company code is OX02. You can always know that. So that's why we don't stress our head writing it. So we're going to we can copy from existing one, or we can create a new company code. Now, most times I like copying because it's going to save me the stress of some very technical issues that will follow. So I would copy from an existing company code, but I'm going to leave some things out. So I'm just going to go to copy, because this is S4. In ECC you can go, but in S4 is a little bit complicated, so you have to, as much as possible, use the standard. So I'm going to go to copy. Then I want to copy from an existing company code. Remember, I told you guys, SAP has predefined company codes inside the system, expecting you that, yeah, when you have issues, use those settings as much as possible. So if I click the drop down from, you're going to see company codes that SAP, or even those in Nigeria, those in various countries, that SAP already has by standard. How will you know the standard ones? 00, they have this SAP thing by the name. You see this is standard, this is standard. You can always trace them. All these are standards.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to look for the one that is US or USD. So I'm using this guy. I like also using, where is 3000? Okay, I like using this guy too. So once it's USD, I know it's a US based company code. Let me see if I have something here. Okay, I think this is fine. So because it's USD, I won't use Europe, which is this is SAP's own standard for Euro, if you're using the Euro currency. So I'll use this guy 003, or pardon me, let me use 17110. Okay, then I'm going to go and sorry, I want to make sure I am okay. Then I will now give the system my own. Remember, we have not created company code yet, so my own company code. My own company code is also IBTC. So please note down company code IBTC, company IBTC. So I'm going to provide my own company code. Remember, this is not existing. I'm doing it for the first time. So my own company code is IBTC. I'll say okay. Then the system will pop up some questions, right? Do you want to allocate a different local currency? Remember, the currency we are copying from is USD. So it's asking you, do you want to change the currency? No, because my IBTC will always also use USD. So I'll say no. You should use the same currency. Certain data was not copied is fine. It's fine. Say okay too. Then it will, this is very important. Number ranges, very, very important, because if you do not copy these number ranges, you're going to have a lot of config issues, right? So that's why, as much as possible, we'll try to copy from the standard. I will copy number ranges, so I'm going to say yes. Number ranges are numbers that track every postings for every transaction or in every document. Now, why we're doing all this is to prepare the system so that end users can use it, or super users can use it at the front. If I want to go and do a posting now with this company code IBTC, it will be practically impossible because we are yet to do this. So you see, it wants me to put this new configuration under credit control area. I will say no. Let it, I want company code configuration. If I want to transport, I can easily transport. Okay. Then I'll say, I didn't put my IBTC, but it's fine. Okay.
Let you 3 minutes to go.
All right, it's fine. Thank you. Okay, so I'll say okay to that. I'll say okay to this. This is just telling me certain things it needs to copy. Yes. Yes. Just keep clicking yes. Okay, so these are all the settings. So company code is copied to IBTC. I'll say okay. So you see the copying is successful and it's done. So I can go back. Then when I'm done copying, because it copied some information from IBTC, I need to go and edit that company code. So I'll go to edit company code. Now, when you get to some pages in SAP, if the information is too long in the table, we use what we call position to search. So if you go to position, it will tell you to provide your new company code, which is IBTC. And I'll say okay. You see, IBTC is carrying information about the company code 17110. So I'm going to double click, change it to company code underscore IBTC. The city, they're all in US, so it's fine. Currency is fine, USD English. Then I'm going to also check the addresses for this company code. Very, very important. You need to check the address. So click on this address icon. There is no address, so I'm going to go to company, IBTC, limited, just key informations, house number, postal code. You need to provide a 5-digit code. If not, you're going to have an error. Country, US, region, LA. You can see list of regions here. When you click the drop down, you can see list of regions in, let's say, California. I like that name. Then you can check other informations. Sorry, I like using LA. Then you can provide this postal. We're not posting anything, so not relevant. You can also put a phone number. Don't put +23, if not it won't go. Just put the normal digits and say okay. So what I've done is I've provided the address of this my company code. Then I'll save. It's now saying, should I save it inside this? Yes, I'm still in my company code configuration, so save it. I've not left the company code screen. So I've saved. I can save again, no problem. Then I have successfully created my company code. Right, so this is exactly what we do here. So at this point, you check your company code and make sure it's been created. The next thing you go to in the blueprint, you check down. You see the next thing is business area, right? Are you there, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Now
Yes,
this is the next thing here, business area. So you see that the blueprint is following the structure of the enterprise, is following the enterprise structure in SAP. So this is your project experience, right? That's how it flows. You cannot say you are an SAP consultant without understanding the projects, because all the informations you're getting are coming from the project side. If there are any issues, you understand projects, so you know how to handle or channel those issues. So let's create a business area very fast. I'm just going to copy. So I'm just going to copy. Just click on the side, click on copy. Our business area is IBTC. I'll use IBTC as much as possible, so I don't have too many codes to work with. It's easier. Then I'll save. The request comes. This is different, so I'm going to say, I want to get to the end so that we can teach you how the transport works, and call this a day. Created my business area. You can create as many as possible, please, depending on what the config says. If you check here, they have 4 business areas. So you can also create 4. Define functional area. This is not very necessary, so we're going to ignore it. Consolidated business area, yes. So because we might need to do a consolidation of all the business areas. That's if you have more than one business area. So let's do this. Just copy. All these ones I'm not going to be IBTC. BTC.
Okay, sorry to let you to interrupt you a bit, okay?
Yes, yes.
Now, in a real life project,
Yes, yes.
this test that we are taking now, how many consultants will be working on these steps? Or is this particular role now is assigned to probably someone, okay, you handle from enterprise structure of the organization, config, how does it work in real life?
In real life, they share the role now. They share the work.
Okay.
Share the work. If you're good, that's why they also ask you which module are you good in.
Exactly.
They always ask you that. If
This
you're
this
good
is
in
okay. Sorry, continue.
okay, if you're good in AP, because this is general now, because SD, what we are doing is enterprise structure. We have not even got into finance yet.
Yes.
So SDMM, everybody is waiting for this structure because they will not do anything until they have company code.
Yeah.
Nobody can do any configuration with that. So they always wait for the finance team to finish this point, this whole enterprise. The finance FI will. So if you're good at enterprise structure, you'll probably be doing this configuration. If you're good in AP, you have to wait for the enterprise guy to give you company code. So somebody can be working in AP, a team, not even somebody, right? You're going to have, it's like a conference. So you guys are going to be looking at, if your work is AP, you're going to, if you check this blueprint, if you check down, you're going to see things about AP. You're going to take that AP, CGL, right? You take that AP and your team will now be in a conference room. They'll have a very big screen. You guys will now have the blueprint. I'm giving you like real life scenario, right? You're going to be displaying the blueprint in a very big screen. Everybody will also have their laptops. Then you have a big screen where you have this configuration, this guy at the back. So they will now pick the activities. The AP is normally, well, it depends on the size. Some you can have a team of 10 people, a team of 5 people, depending on the size of the project. So it's a teamwork.
Yes.
So when you pick, for example, AP, or let's say, for example, SD, customer master data, if you're good at customer master data, your team will be in charge of doing everything about customer master data configuration.
Yeah,
If
we
you're
do
good,
organization structure.
if your team is good with organizing the structure, the team will do structure. If a team is good with accounts payable, doing the configuration for AP, the APP, the automatic payment program, the correspondence, all that, a team will handle. Even within the team, you can have people who have specific skills. Like you have an APP expert. APP is automatic payment run. You can have an expert in APP inside AP. Inside AP, you can also have a business business partner expert in vendors. So do you understand how it works now?
Yes.
So it's
Okay.
not.
Sorry. Okay. Continue. Sorry. Continue.
No, you want to, because I'm moving now.
Okay. I wanted to say something there. Like now, if you are asked what areas are you, much competent with, I know we have AP, we have AR, we have asset accounting. This level that we are treating now,
Yes.
is still under where can we classify this?
This is enterprise. This is enterprise structure.
Okay, the enterprise structure.
Okay.
This is enterprise structure, and there are people who, because enterprise structure,
But it's still customizing, right?
yes. Well, of course, what we're doing is configuration, not customizing. We're doing configuration. Customizing is, like I explained yesterday, when you want something to work in a certain way.
Yeah.
The configuration is to prepare the system for the user to use.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have. I'm just going to finish this guy, so we can call it today. We have the I think this is not funds management, but forgetting this concept now. Just let me refer.
It's used for
Okay,
FSC.
FMA. Yes, it's something that has to do with funds management.
Funds management, yes.
Yes. So what this does is to help with tracking liquidity issues and all that. So we're not going to be using this. It's not relevant for this training. We are going to define a segment. Like I said, we can either use business area or a segment. You don't use two of them at the same time. So we're going to go to segments just to give you the feel. But most of what we are going to be doing will be around business areas. You can also copy this segment. You can change your own terminology. You can say IBSE. Do you understand? You can use any code, but I don't want the code to be many, so that we won't have issues. So segment.
You have to follow the customer's name.
Yes. Follow the naming convention.
Exactly.
Because you have to name it in a way that they will understand. So segment for IBTC. So I will create a new one. I want to do this and go and show you the transport, then we close this out. So we are done with the segments. You can save again just to be sure. Then define profit center. Unfortunately, the best way to do profit center is through the CEO module. So we're not going to be running this at this point. It's part of the controlling. So we're going to be leaving this. So we have done with definition. When we come back next time, well, of course, it's going to be a longer session. We will now move to assignments. What is assignment? Is trying to connect, is trying to integrate the things we have created. Because now, remember I told you, if you look at this diagram, company code is part of company. It has been integrated, but what we have just done is to create them separately, right? What assignment will do is to connect them, is to bring them together, and that is what we're going to look at. What we call next time, we're going to be a little bit fast, and we're also going to be looking at the SD side of this. So in our next class, we're going to look at assignments, assign these modules. When we're done with finance, we will also visit SD and do some configurations in SD. Then we move to the next thing, the core activities, from defining the field status to the posting periods to the calendar, to setting up the variants that are very important. Right. So, but the next thing we're going to do is to just give you a glimpse of how transport is. So let's say, for example, the enterprise guys, they are done with their enterprise structure. They have done all the assignment, and the project manager has said, okay, it has gone through the first level of testing. They have checked all this with the blueprint. They meet all the criteria of the blueprint. They have now said, okay, enterprise team, transport your configuration to QA. Right, so the first thing they are going to do is, you have the transaction code called SE01 or SE09. That is what we call the transport organizers. But SE01 has two functionalities. It's transport organizer plus extended view, while SE09 or SE010 is just a transport organizer. So we like using the SE01. So I'm going to leave this screen open, create a new session. Then I'm going to go to SE01. Now, before we get to SE01, I want to check, I want to also see my server. I want to see the server I want to transport to. The T code to check this, we call that the user maintenance, is SU01. So I'm going to go to SU01 first. Oh, I'm not authorized to run this, right? They have blocked me. But let's go to SCC4. Let's go to
I thought you said it's SE09 or something.
No. SE09 and SE01 is for transport organizer.
Okay.
I've left that one. Before you do transport organizer, you need to check where you can see the servers you want to transport to.
Okay.
To do that, we need to go to SCC4.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to SCC4, you're going to see display client. So SCC4 is used to display the client. Here you are now going to see the list of the clients. Dev, you can see that basically 400 is for customizing, 500 is for testing, then one will now be for development system. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we are transporting from 400 to 500. 500 is the QA, 400 is the dev. So you need to run this SCC4 to see the list of clients. Right. Then the next thing, we have seen what we want. The next thing is to go to SEO1, which is the transport organizer plus the extended view. You can also use SEO9. Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So in the transport organizer, what kind of the request type? Remember, we have customizing request, which was all those things we were saving when we were doing configurations, right?
Yeah.
Customizing request. So you tick the request type, customizing request. You can tick workbench is used by the ABAP guys to transport technical objects. So you can also tick the workbench. This is green. That means you're good to go. Then you can go to display. When you go to display, are you seeing the things we just configured?
Mm-hmm.
You can see this, right? So you can see that if we had put them under one, we wouldn't have seen them separated like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's why we had to create them as a different request level so we can transport them. So the enterprise guys, the manager has said, enterprise, transport all these requests. All these requests that has been done. So it's telling you transport the segment, transport the business area, transport this one to the QA, right? So having cited this, right, the next thing this functional consultant is going to do is to, because this page is for you to see the request. It helps you also organize the request and also release this for you to, because if you select this and release this, it means that, okay, you have released it for transport.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is means you have released for transport. Now, for you to actually execute this, now this is where, now guys take note, this is where the job of the functional consultant for FI or SD or M stops. From here, because it is the job of the basis team to move, your own is to provide them with the requests. Are you there?
Yeah.
Your own is to provide them with the request. Their own is to sanction, execute it.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to show you how they do execute it, but nobody is going to allow you to do customization and transport it yourself. There has to be some kind of checks. You can't have, in fact, you can't have authorization to execute itself. When you run the T code, it will bounce. So don't even stress yourself. So I'm going to go to another system, a new GUI, to execute the transport. We can use the T code we call SCC1. SCC1. It will tell you, okay, the new for S4HANA is now SCC1N. For ECC is still SCC1. So it's reminding us that it has changed. So SCC1N is called copy by transport request. So what we are going to do, we'll go back to the SEO1, copy this. Let's say we want to transport this guy. So we can say Control Y, use Control Y and copy, use Control C, use Control Y and highlight, use Control C and copy. I'll say again, use Control Y to highlight. You see, when I use Ctrl Y, it's going to change my cursor to this guy.
Mhm.
When you drag, you now use Ctrl C to copy it. So when you copy it, you go to the now here it's telling you what is the target client. The target client you want to transport this could be 400, 500. Yes, although we won't be, so these are the list of all the clients. We won't be able to transport because, of course, we are not using, that server is not open. So you put the target client, put the transport request. You can use, this would release this for transport. Okay, and we can also include all the tags that are under this request. Then you can click on direct execution. This is also going to, release this information for you to actually do your transport. You can do direct execution. We're supposed to have something that we call a test. So what this is trying to do now is trying to connect to this database for me to release this transport to. So it's exporting. So you see there is error. Of course, it won't go because this target client is not live. It's not live, so it won't go. But this is just to give you an idea of how you can run your transport, right? And
Sorry,
yes,
I have a question. I was going through Best Practice Explorer in the system. Also, I saw this scope item. I think there are a lot of documents there in every stage when you are doing your configuration. Also, I think I saw something like this. These steps also you follow in creating all this structure and everything. I think I saw something there.
yeah, sure. I mean, there are documentations. There's
There are
no
documentation. Yeah.
SAP will not leave you hanging. You can always, they will always give you guidance on how to run your configs. So yeah, there are documentations, no doubt. If you have them, please go through them and study to know more. So you can see the menu part for where you can see your SCC4, your SCC1, and the rest of them. In case you don't have the transaction codes offhand, you can see SEO1. Then you have the transport management system. Let me run this also. This is more like a management system where you do when you have released, then you have to come here and now finish the transport. So basically, like I said, your work as a functional consultant is to provide the parameters for which is to execute. So once you come here, you can release, you can prepare for release so that the basis guy can actually run the next transaction code and release and execute this transport. Except it's a very small project where you're going to be being the one doing everything. But basically, in a standard project, you won't be the one to do transport and the one to also release at the same time. So it's important that we take note of that so that you can always know your rights and know what you're expected to do. So the two transaction codes we have learned today on transport is the SEO1, which we can use to get the request. We also can use that to release request from one server to another. Remember, there are two ways of transporting. You can transport from one server to another, which is from dev to QA. You can also transport from client to client. You can transport from client 400 to another client in another server. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can transport from dev system to QA system. within a client. You can also transport from one client 500 to client 1,000.
Is that not like rollout when you are doing this from one client to another?
The two ways you can run your transport. So I just wanted to bring that. And the transaction code to do transport between clients is STMC_import. So let me say you want to do STMC imports.
STMC or STMS?
So this is for you. STMS_imports. Sorry guys, I need to briefly get this call. So this is, of course, they won't give me access to it.
Okay.
This import all transports. You can see the icon here. Yes. So this is where you import the. You can do for all. You can do for individual. You can import the all your request here, and from here you can execute it to another client. So these.
I have
yes,
a question.
please.
If you are doing rollout, maybe you fill it in one company, you are doing rollout. Do you also use this system? Like maybe if you want to transport, you do use this one, this SQMS_import to do the rollout to in another client.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's possible. That's one of the situations where you can do client to client.
Okay.
Yes, yes. But if you have already done the configuration in the system, then you have to do it from server to server. So yeah, that's a very good example. Okay, so we're going to end here for today. So we have basically looked at briefly the Okay. Our next class, we're going to be a little bit fast, and we're going to see how. Sorry, let me drop a message. We're going to see how we can continue with the process. Remember, it's basically about your blueprint. Always refresh. Always. Sorry, guys, for that bridge. Always referencing your blueprint document. Yes. So in the session, we're going to look at assignments. We'll look at other functionalities. We are going to see how really these configurations happen, in the real life. So when we're done with the assignment, we'll now go to financial accounting. Financial accounting, we'll start seeing things like chart of accounts, fiscal year, asset accounting, and the rest of that. So we'll just take it step by step and run through the config as much as can. So, the idea is to give you the experience. So by now you should have understood the flow of projects down to your configurations and the expectations they have of you as the consultant on ground. And also to know that it's not a one-man show, right? You're going to have a team. You're going to have people with special skills, and you're going to also be driving that process alongside. So that's the picture. So don't be scared that you're going to be the one doing everything alone, but you might be the lead. So you might be the one coordinating and advising and directing. But as a lead, you also need to understand the process of this, guys, because you're going to be the one interpreting the blueprint, and it's not an easy task. So when you hear the word lead is the product owner. and he's the one who will interpret what the blueprint is saying to the other team members. So I don't know if we have a question so we can wrap up and you know use our remaining time of the day to do some other things.
Have you done lead before?
If I've done lead before,
as a product owner. So I couldn't hear
I'm
you.
a lead now.
Yeah, now. Okay. I thought
I'm a lead now.
Yeah. I thought that's much.
And the next row we're going to, I'm also the lead there.
You are going to another project again.
Yes. I'll be leaving the firm by January. I've gotten a more serious. It's more challenging, but it's good. That's why I don't have time. I'm also preparing for that. I'm also reading again and preparing for that.
You know, you're an expert now. You chew SAP like chewing gum.
We're still learning. We're all learning.
The streets
are.
Hello.
Yeah, Esther, I expected that. Yeah.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma. Sorry, I was like I'm a little bit very quiet because it's like this class for now it majors on consultancy and
true. You have to be here. You have to be here. Don't run anywhere. Because you need to understand what they do. Because if tomorrow I know your interest is at the super user area, which we will come to, but before you can post transactions, for example, you need to do these things at the back. So it's the back we're showing you so that tomorrow when you're having discussions with consultants, you can also express yourself and you can appreciate the work that they do. That's why you are here. Because once we are done,
it's still looking like one friction thing to me.
Yeah. Don't worry. When we come to your side, where we'll be using debit and credit and doing postings.
Because when you see vacancies and they are saying that you are seeing SAP, they major on all these posting areas. And that's what I'm looking for.
Support consultant. No, but it's true that like you most likely it depends, right? You can work as an end user, you can work as a super user, you can also work as a support consultant that support users. But
the advantage is very interesting. Don't worry.
The advantage.
People are just bamboozling me with all these T code, and I say, "Oh God, I hope I can."
You use your own T code. Your own T code is coming. Your own T code is coming.
Madam Patient, I'm beginning to be scared. I don't know.
No, don't be scared. Now, for example, okay, let me show you something, right? I know you'll be familiar with this side. So this is where
I'm sales distribution. Maybe because of I know sales distribution and we do with finance. That's why I know a bit of their this thing.
Yeah, just okay. So Esther, if you come here, let's say. Let me show you something. This is at the end user side, right? So you can see GL and all that, chart of accounts. I know your So when the time comes, you are not going to be doing this side. This is your area.
How is it called? Your own is the presentation layer.
Yes, we are the
user experience.
We want to go and look for a job, but we are not consultants yet, so I'm not reached that level.
No, it's true. True, you will get your jobs, but you need
Don't worry.
This knowledge will be helpful when you get it. Okay. Because the first thing you should ask is, what client am I working on? You already learned that. You don't just you need to ask those and they will have you used SAP before? They won't think you have used SAP before when you start speaking all those languages. If you don't see if you don't see T code, you can ask them, please, where can I get the technical name for?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, maybe that time I'll be sounding like Madam Patient. I will scare all of them.
Then, it comes.
No, I've been doing SAP 2019, and it's the SAP system is even new for me in English because I know it more in German language. So it's even good for me for both sides. So when I go and everything, I say, okay, this one is there. I can even relate with it and everything. So it's just the German knowledge I have. I just used to follow. And like I said before, I'm not finance. I'm just learning. I'm happy. I'm just learning because Kelechi is more finance, and he's a jack of all trade. He has 4: finance, controlling, material management, and sales distribution. So I'm following. And so Kelechi is my mentor.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, so a good mentor
Yes,
at that.
he's an expert and he loves it. I like it for that.
Okay, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's have a very good week and celebrate
Oh,
our
what's our
expo.
next
Merry
class?
Christmas to
Class,
you all.
You said?
Kelechi, send my
Next
Ukwobi
class.
through SAP.
The next